What's up, everybody? It's Yong here with yet another Death Stranding news update. The following information comes from another interview with Hideo Kojima, this time conducted by website The Wired, where Kojima shared some hints and bits of information regarding his upcoming new game. Most of the information here can basically be found in other post-E3 2016 interviews, but there are little bits here and there that's new or suggests certain new things. He once again talked about how the umbilical cord seen throughout the trailer symbolizes connection, a key word for Death Stranding. He specifically stated that the game's story is about connections, what you would call strands in psychology, which is a term for how people are connected according to Kojima. He also reiterated that Death Stranding will be an action game that will compare naturally to AAA open world or linear action games, but will feel very new and different after an hour or two of gameplay. He also once again discussed how he was inspired by Japanese author Kobo Abe's novel The Rope, in which the author mentions that the first tool humanity invented was the stick to keep bad things away, and that after the stick, the rope was invented to keep things that are important close. Kojima also talked about how we see a lot of equivalents to sticks in today's online games, things like pistols and weapons, and how while Death Stranding will feature equivalents of sticks as well, Kojima also wants to tie people together with the equivalent of ropes. Now, what's interesting is that he specifically addressed online games when talking about how games use the equivalent of sticks, so naturally The Wired asked Kojima if Death Stranding will be a multiplayer game. Kojima responded with, "It's not so simple, it's a new system. It's not as if today you have online gameplay where you fight with guns and I'm swapping them for ropes." Notice how he didn't outright deny the notion that Death Stranding could be a multiplayer game, simply stating that it's not so simple. It seems to me as though Kojima does intend to create some kind of online infrastructure to bring his rope idea to life, something that's less about shooting together or against each other and more about connecting people. An online infrastructure that favors the rope over the stick, in a manner of speaking. So this begs an interesting question. Will Death Stranding be an always online kind of game? This wouldn't necessarily mean that the game would be multiplayer only or that it's an MMORPG or anything like that. It could still be a single player experience, but maybe certain unique features on the campaign require an online infrastructure. Maybe online is a necessity to bring to life Kojima's idea regarding this rope and keeping people connected. At the very least, I think Kojima's new game will feature some sort of optional online multiplayer component. In this modern day and age, you can't really connect players unless there's some kind of online infrastructure in place, so Kojima will have to do that if he's truly adamant about this connection theme. From the vague details that I've gathered so far, I am reminded a lot of the Souls series. Souls games, despite featuring some co-op and competitive multiplayer elements, are primarily intended to be single-player experiences, but at the same time, being connected online offers some interesting features, perks, and advantages, like how people can leave behind messages to guide other players, or how you can see the ghosts of other players who died in certain areas. It's a game that, even in single-player mode, feels like it's connected to other players. Now, I'm not saying that this is the unique feature that Kojima's planning to employ in Death Stranding. I'm sure that what he's doing will be something different or unique. I'm just making a point that it's possible to keep people connected in games without forcing them to interact with other players directly. We'll see what shape this rope-themed gameplay feature takes in time, but for now my assumption is that as a result of this feature, Death Stranding could either be an always online kind of game, or a game that at least has an optional online component that offers some really cool features for those who are connected. Metal Gear Solid 5 would be an example of this. You can enjoy that game without being connected online, but if you are connected online, you've got stuff like Metal Gear Online and FOBs and whatnot. So maybe we'll see something similar in Death Stranding. After all, Kojima does say, connecting people through gameplay is the basis of the game. I don't know how you would do that without online. And this idea of connecting people is part of the meaning behind the word stranding. It's not just about someone being alone on an island, but also about strands connecting people. Kojima also talked about the idea of not only connecting one character to another, but also connecting life and death. When asked to further elaborate, Kojima talked about how the concept of death hasn't changed much in video games over the last 3 decades. You die, you put another quarter in or use up a life, and you keep coming back. With Death Stranding, Kojima intends to give a different twist to that notion, with life and death and the connection between them being a big part of this game. Perhaps this idea of life and death being connected means that there really isn't such a thing as game over in Death Stranding. Perhaps death simply leads to another event that somehow flows with the gameplay, rather than presenting you with a game over screen and forcing you to try again like in most conventional games. But bottom line is that he's planning something unconventional for the death mechanic. The rest of the information from the interview didn't really reveal stuff about the game. It was more about Kojima's experiences leading up to Death Stranding. He reminisced about the 8-bit days when he couldn't really show players what was in his head due to the limited technology of that time, and how now, with the current technology, there aren't really many limitations. He talked about his partnership with Norman Reedus, stating that he wanted to make sure that he worked with someone he was comfortable with. Kojima apparently never goes through casting agencies to find actors, authors, or musicians. He has some people in mind and likes to talk to them directly to figure out if they're going to have a successful relationship. With Norman Reedus, after the unfortunate cancellation of Silent Hills and the fiasco that ensued, apparently he worried for Kojima and was a very nice guy. In other words, they became good friends and Kojima feels very comfortable working with him. There was also some talk about Metal Gear, with Kojima stating that at Konami his priority was always Metal Gear, even if he wanted to work on other games, so he expressed that it's a nice feeling to be able to work on something new. Finally, he once again reiterated why he partnered with Sony, which is that they gave Kojima a lot of freedom and trust and were very supportive, allowing Kojima to focus on making the game rather than having to split up his attention between making the game and all of these other extraneous factors. So there you have it, folks, some bits of new information from The Wired's interview with Hideo Kojima. With that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know in the comments below your thoughts and theories on Kojima's statements regarding Death Stranding. And to be further updated on gaming news, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out!